Hey, pull up a chair. It's Hacks on Tap with David Axelrod and Mike Murphy.
She's terrible. But she's getting a free ride. I saw a picture of her on Time Magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a drawing. And actually, she looked very much like our great First Lady, Melania. She didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman. So we'll leave it at that, right?
You know, it takes a lot to make Elon Musk sound a little nervous and embarrassed. But
yes,
he did it.
He turned Elon Musk into Ed McMahon there for 2 hours.
Long hours.
Yeah. But
did you listen to the whole thing? I couldn't take it. I got bored, which is kind of the problem with the Trump campaign.
I think it's still going on right now. What are you talking about? I don't think you can listen to the whole thing. Still happening.
Technical difficulties, so I only heard a little bit of it, but enough of it to know that it was a kind of a big turd for Trump. I don't think it advanced the ball, and it certainly wasn't good for Elon because they were 45 minutes late due to their own technical difficulties. But you know who doesn't?
I could hear DeSantis cackling with joy all the way from Florida, though. That the trophy has been passed.
He's probably the guy who pulled the plug.
And speaking of passing trophies,
yes,
we have a special and frequent guest here, but we have a big announcement to make.
Give us some horns here.
Do we have like the fanfare, budget fanfare?
I'm like waiting for a sad trombone to play here, like wah wah wah.
Well, we got that too.
All right.
Really, that's all we got?
That's all.
Jesus.
Because now that John Heilman...
I know we pay minimum wage, but really.
now that John Heilman is officially joining the team here...
That's right.
One of the conditions was that we make some budget cuts, so that was all we could afford was that little rim shot kind of whatever it was, flourish on the drums. He's a man who needs no introduction. You know him from MSNBC. You know him as the creator of The Circus on Showtime. He's the co-author of the bestsellers Game Change and Double Down. He is a columnist for Puck News and does podcasts there. He is everywhere, and he is now a hack on tap. Welcome, John Heilman. We've been bereft since our man Robert Gibbs went off to more lucrative pursuits. But
he just bought his own island, by the way. I just heard the news this morning. So we've been looking for a third member.
That's my backup plan in case there's a change of parties in the fall. We have Trump coming. Gibbs is going to put me up on that secret undisclosed island there.
You guys, I'm delighted to be here as always, and delighted to be joining this august duo.
And it is August, so it's perfect.
Oh man, the puns.
You're going to get used to it, man.
I signed up.
You get only the best stuff here.
I thought there's going to be. I think there's some codicil in my contract that limits the number of puns from Axelrod. But I will say that I'm old enough to remember when Hacks on Tap was just a 2-man show. Back in the ancient days of Aught 11, whenever it was.
Yeah, when was that? Yeah.
I don't know.
Prehistoric.
The Mesozoic era. But you can't take Robert Gibbs's place. No one can fill those shoes. Those are big shoes to fill. And I do hope at some point that I get a job where I'm paid as well as he is paid now. That this is the fast track. This is the way you get to make big money.
SpectraVision may be on line 2 for a comm director. Who knows what could happen?
They all listen to this show. Seeking talent. So
my apprenticeship. It's my apprenticeship, so to speak, for my job working for a dying giant.
But in all seriousness,
media company. Yeah,
Heilman, you're a brilliant addition here. You're great.
My hackishness precedes me. Is that what you're saying? When you were looking for the hackiest hack you could find,
you're like, lifetime working to develop it, and you're now ready for the big time. But
or the medium time, depending. That's what Mr. Rogan would say.
As a commentator, as a at MSNBC, and wait, where are you now?
Gas bag. I think at Puck and Puck.
Puck.
There's Puck. There's MSNBC.
It's a 24-hour Don Rickles channel.
Right.
It's incredible.
I am magazine, the brilliant Pulitzer Prize winning author. I mean, we could not have done better, Murphy.
24/7 gas battery.
I agree. I don't want this to turn into the telethon here because I think you're going to break into a song there, X. But we got the guy, so it's going to work, Hackaroos, like it has before. Sometimes it'll be all of us. Sometimes it'll be two of us. We're going to kind of rotate around, and we're going to keep you entertained, informed, insulted, stimulated, occasionally bored, whatever we can do from the bottom of our toolbox. And I couldn't be happier, Johnny, that you're in the scam now with us. And
yes.
you can take all that big Hacks on Tap money and probably get a subcompact car on a good lease deal with it. So
let's get down to business here. Musk and Trump last night, the whole exercise, more than 2 hours of kind of free-form chatting, following that kind of crazy rally he had in Montana, the press conference last week. That campaign has a candidate problem, guys. There's a strategy here that you'd think they'd pursue that might have a better chance to win but he's like freaked out. Hilman.
Oh, yeah, he's broken. It's interesting. First, the Dems had a candidate problem with the president. Now the candidate problem monsters move over to Trump, who we all know is an insecure guy who can't handle bad stimulus. And polls are driving him crazy, crowd size, everything he cares about has gone wrong. And when there is an actual campaign to be had, but as we predicted on the pod, once the going gets tough, the so-called wonder machine of Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita, they're not going to be able to control him. And he's just doing his one-man, damn the casino, I'm going all night, mad dog ad lib now. And it's hurting him. It's giving her more energy.
I mean, you guys know that better than I do, that whatever a candidate's strengths and weaknesses are, in general, the candidates don't the things that what doesn't generally happen is that when candidates face the maximum adversity, they perform at their best, at least initially, right? There's always this period of holy shit, what's going on, right? And Trump has always had these problems that we're talking about here in terms of discipline, focus, clarity, message, all that stuff. But his showmanship would often override it. I actually think part of the problem here is not only that it's freaking him out and he didn't expect this and he doesn't have another gear. I think that the stuff that relates to his age and cognitive decline, this is where the rubber's meeting the road. Because, this has been coming for a while, and the people in general in the filter didn't focus on it the way that they might have, because Biden's had the same problems and then had this kind of this affect that drew all the attention to him. But with Biden out of the race, it's throwing Trump's cognitive difficulties in really sharp relief. And he has them at the moment. He's a 79-year-old man who's always been a little bit crazy, who's never been that smart, who's also kind of losing his mind generically. And then you throw this curveball at him. Octogenarians, borderline octogenarians aren't generally great at catching up with a speeding train.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening. The
poetry of it is beautiful, because first every election kind of creates a thing. So we create this age monster and it eats Biden. And now the age monster is still out there in the public psyche. And Trump, even though he kind of has a vibe of a little more vigor in his own way, he is clearly out of it, old. And now the age monster, at least the lens we've created, is looking at him, and he's not doing well under it.
Right.
Well, the contrast is pretty stark, because she's out there and she is young and sort of contemporary and the joyful. I got a little clip here from the. He's doing his doom and gloom stuff. I mean, he had I don't have the clip, but he had an amazing riff in Montana where he just described the apocalypse approaching if she gets elected. Let's listen to what she said in Nevada.
Together, we are running this campaign on behalf of all Americans. From red states to blue states, from the heartland to the coast. And when elected, we will govern on behalf of all Americans. All Americans. So, Nevada, ultimately in this election, I believe we each face a question. What kind of country do we want to live in? A country of chaos, fear, and hate, or a country of freedom, compassion, and rule of law?
So, Kamala's out there and she's selling this sort of positive vision of what America can be. And Trump is selling this apocalyptic vision of what America will be if she gets elected. And he sounds, it may play with his base. I don't know that those swing votes, it's just reminding people of what life with him is.
Yeah. Yeah, he's doing Voldemort and she's doing Ted Lasso. And I think after a rough time and flat middle class incomes, of course they want hope. One of the greatest lessons of Hollywood history is during the Great Depression, people did not want sad movies.
Right.
Life on the breadline. I ate a rat today. No. Ballroom comedies, screwball comedies, people in dinner jackets running around.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if she can give them an escape from, this is the whole politics of joy thing that Waltz likes to talk about. There is rocket fuel in that, and he's deciding to go be the villain foil to it. It's a gift to her.
The shorter version of this is the split screen that was helping him before is killing him now. Like the split screen with her is, the split screen in that debate with him and Biden, the split screen, Trump just stood there, shook his head most of the time and let Biden self-destruct. And now he's got, picture of youth, picture of change, picture of optimism, picture of all that stuff and of all the positive stuff. And I, not to be to take us too far out of the realm of the Hacker-universe. But like, there's this thing that's been happening for the last couple of weeks. I don't know if y'all noticed it. It was called the Olympics. It drove massive ratings. The country is looking at America that just was tied with China for the most gold medals and crushed the rest of the field in total medals by like 126 to like 91 or something, right? And the country loved these Olympics. They were watching them at unprecedented rates, digging on the notion of American achievement on the globe. Does that, like when I hear Donald Trump say country in decline, we're a nation in decline. Is that like the way America feels right now?
Guess he hasn't seen Simone Biles, huh?
Well, right. I would say if I were Harris or Walz, I'd say at some point, Simone Biles, Katie Ledecky, Steph Curry would like to have a word with you, Mr. Trump. I mean, we're not really in. We're not.
Well, she kind of did say that.
I wonder what they're doing next week. Are they in Chicago?
She got off the plane the other day wearing an Olympic USA jacket.
It's just so out of step with the mood. And granted, it's very much in step with the anger, resentment, and grievance of the MAGA base. But where the broader country is right now is not in a place where what they're hungry for is visions of apocalypse.
He's always locked in the Republican primary. That's one of his great weaknesses.
Let's just sober up for a second here, because there is still a right track, wrong track that's pointed in the wrong direction. I mean, he is not sort of imagining this environment. And you would think that he could capitalize on that if he could control himself and focus.
Yeah, that's the problem. There's no subtlety to
issues.
It. It's just, he just does Mad Dog. And no light touch to frame the argument. He gets in his own way.
If you were him, though, and you knew that if you lost, you were very much subject to potential prison for the things that he's been convicted of and things that he may be tried for, that would get you a little crazy, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But I would decide, am I going to get out of this with blind rage or a brain?
Of course,
and I would
that
go
would be
with
the
brain.
rational thing. That would be the rational thing to do.
Crazy or a little focused, right? You think about concentrate the mind here. Like, hey, you gotta really get with the program here. I don't know. There was something about this last week, the combination of the Mar-a-Lago press conference, which was I mean, really, even by his standards, was so dissociative and crazy. This Willie Brown story that goes on and on now, where we realize that some combination of him having confused Willie Brown with Jerry Brown and conflated the Willie Brown with this African-American city councilman from Los Angeles. You got a race thing going on here. You got a name confusion thing. It's like Nikki Nancy. Like when we confused Bird Brain Nikki Haley with crazy Nancy Pelosi, that because they both are women whose names begin with N. If you recall this from the New Hampshire primary, it's like the Brown thing, and then you also toss in another black guy who actually did take a helicopter with him. No wonder the guy can't keep it straight. And then this thing accusing her of the AI images.
Yes, yeah. This was
crab size.
Is so
this
bonkers.
Crazy tweet or not tweet, but he posting on Truth Social, basically promoting this conspiracy theory that these crowds that we see around her are all being generated by AI.
Jonathan Chait in New York Magazine said this thing about how that tweet, that truth thing about the fake crowds, is crazier than the conspiracy theory that we faked the moon landing, because there are thousands of witnesses to these events, thousands. And nobody witnessed the moon landing up in person, right? But there's like literally tens of thousands of people who've been to these events who can all validate the fact that there are tens of thousands of people at these events. And yet he still thinks somehow that's going to convince someone.
I think the real tell here and the real kryptonite that is the truth of him that the campaign is scraping away under the hot lights is he actually believes all this crazy stuff. He thinks it is rigged. I mean, he thinks it is an AI conspiracy.
He can't believe someone would beat him at his own game. I mean, it's
right.
Just,
well, he's projecting. That's what I do. I fake the crowd, But it just shows how untethered to reality this guy is. He creates his own reality to feed his needy insecurity, and then he bleats and bloviates it, making himself now the crazy old guy who wants to rain on the God Bless America parade. I mean, it's beautiful.
We have okay, all right, you guys. I tried to steer you away from this
just beating up on Trump.
Euphoric.
I'm not being euphoric.
No.
It's just wild.
I mean, he's nuts. Let's and it is all tumbling out now at a most inconvenient time.
Let me take your premise, because I agree with it.
Okay.
How could she screw this up? Because it has been a sugar high. She got a post-Biden, oh my God, we're not going to lose, tornado free ride that picked her up and put her in the air, and she's done a great job managing it. I think they've been tone perfect. They were slow on advertising. They finally got some up. But I'll put out something. I don't like all the prosecutor fighting, because when a Republican campaign with a blindfold and half drunk can't run a law and order campaign against a progressive prosecutor from Oakland, California, the world is ended. I think they've got to be careful. They're betting heavy on that.
Let's do this. Here's the latest Harris ad, and it will be followed by a Trump response.
Kamala Harris has spent decades fighting violent crime. As a border state prosecutor, she took on drug cartels and jailed gang members for smuggling weapons and drugs across the border. As vice president, she backed the toughest border control bill in decades. And as president, she will hire thousands more border agents and crack down on fentanyl and human trafficking. Fixing the border is tough. So is Kamala Harris.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
MS-13 gang member here illegally, robbed a pregnant woman, then released, then executed a San Francisco family, another illegal, arrested, released, then killed this young boy with a sword, illegal immigrant, convicted, released, then violently fractured a woman's skull. Who released every one of them? Liberal DA Kamala Harris. The victim's blood is on her hands.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
So there you go, Murphy. There's your fight. Obviously, the campaign, the Harris campaign, and she's doing it in speeches and talking about what she would do on immigration, but as well. But they're trying to immunize her against what they know is a potent attack, which is there was a perception that she was the so-called border czar. She wasn't. She was assigned a very discreet assignment, which was to talk to the countries from which these immigrants were fleeing to try and stop the flow of those immigrants. But nonetheless, it is a tag that they're trying to stick her with. And, there's a lot of fuzziness about exactly what her role was. What do you guys think about that exchange of ads?
I think that's a campaign over time Trump would like to have.
Well, it would be how Hilman wouldn't. This is the issue certainly he wants to fight on.
That's the campaign his campaign would like to have.
Yes.
I don't know what the hell Trump wants.
Yeah.
That's the kind of the issue, right? It's like I was reading your old buddy Alex Castellanos, Mike, who posted a long thing about this that sort of was like trying to give the Trump campaign some direction, and he basically said something like, there's an obvious campaign to run here. This campaign. The one that exchange of ads.
It's plus liberal. Make it ideological.
Right. Make it ideological. And he said, the problem is that right now they're running 10 campaigns instead of one, and they're just throwing it, just kitchen sink.
Yeah, he's right.
And Trump is the embodiment of that. And David, that's why when I'm commenting on Trump's mental decline, it's not to say that there's no way that Harris can lose. And it's not to say there's no way that the Trump campaign can win. It's just to go back to your very first point, which is given the dominance of this candidate, given how much Trump is the campaign, if you can't fix Trump, you can't. It's not going to matter what Chris Lasavidas and Susie Wiles. Every Republican consultant in America knows what the playbook should be here against Harris. It might work, it might not. But if Trump's just going to be Trump and worse, you're not going to be able to turn that thing around. Harris will win.
One of the things about presidential races is that this paid media is important.
Overrated.
But it gets overrated. It gets overwhelmed by what
media.
People see. And, they're not going to, their eyes don't deceive them. They see what they see. And that story is the storyline so you need to have harmony between what your candidate is saying and doing and what you're trying to communicate. They don't.
It took Trump almost over an hour to get to any kind of a real message against Harris last night on that Musk thing. He talked for the better part of 45 minutes late, and then he talked for over an hour about stuff that had nothing to do with her. They're just babbling.
Yeah,
he's just talking.
He's flailing. He's an id monster. I mean, you're totally right. It's a candidate thing. But back to this. If I were the Harris people, they got a decision to make. All right, we rolled out the tough prosecutor thing. We tried to build a little armor so we only get killed on this by 7 or 8 points, not 20. How do we pivot to the issue that counts, the economy? And we have a huge opportunity here, a gift from God, which is because nobody knows anything about her, the vulnerability and the strength. She can have the Harris plan for the middle class now and get a little distance from Biden.
Well, I think we're supposed to see that tomorrow. They're rolling out. She's doing an economic speech tomorrow for just that reason. And I agree with you that that the way and I have a little experience with this from 2012. The way a Democrat incumbent or an incumbent party owns the economy in an environment like this where people are jaundiced about the economy is to make it a question of who's on your side.
Yeah, motive.
And that I think she's doing it in her
advertising
speeches. Yeah.
Let's stop for a minute and listen to a word from one of our fine sponsors. Hey, X, I have some tech news for you. Did you know that Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach?
I did not.
Well, it's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, because it's all connected to your smartphone, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve, and you could use it, your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even, we could both use this, stress management.
What if you have no fat, though? What if you're lean and trim? And anyway, all you have to do.
I saw you in the Olympics.
Yes, exactly. I just got back to do the show. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurement.
You know what? You can also breathe into the Lumen device before and after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game.
Because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does. Optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, and more.
So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/hacks and get 15% off your Lumen. That's LUMEN.me/hacks for 15% off your purchase.
Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. They took a swing at this with a spot that, I have some questions about, but it certainly suggests that they know that this is where they have to go. Let's take a listen to that.
She grew up in a middle-class home. She was the daughter of a working mom, and she worked at McDonald's while she got her degree. Kamala Harris knows what it's like to be middle class. It's why she's determined to lower healthcare costs and make housing more affordable. Donald Trump has no plan to help the middle class, just more tax cuts for billionaires. Being president is about who you fight for, and she's fighting for people like you.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
One thing that there are two little Discord notes as an ad guy. First, on the earlier spot, quickly, they keep using John Dolman as the voiceover, who's a very good character actor.
The guy from
played
The
a
Wire.
corrupt cop on The Wire. I don't know if he's right. And on this, maybe it's just hitting me in a weird way, but treating working at McDonald's like a silver star won in battle, it seems a little precious to me. But these are quibbles. Fundamentally, it's a middle-class motive message, and I'll take it, though it could be better, sharper.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, if they want to link her to these stories, then she ought to be articulating it and talking about her own experiences and their experiences, or, but I think they'll get there. I think, one thing I will say is they are trying to fly a plane and retool it in midair, and so you're not going to get perfection. But that spot, which I agree with you, I also
there's another spot which talks about she doesn't want you to have two jobs to have a decent middle class life, which I think is a stronger spot. It's
that is her narrating. That was the one I was looking for and didn't find, but that is her narrating. That's from her speech. Where she talks about her economic values, but I think that was a spot on. That was a spot on.
Yeah, I agree.
I love that.
And I'm seeing it a lot on the Olympics, at least here in New Hampshire. But she can do the plan thing. It's a little bit of a cliche, but that gives her a way to earn some Biden distance and a reset, because she's not linked to Biden enough to really hurt her on the economy yet. We just saw the first polling coming out. For once, she's not 15 points behind like Biden was on running the economy. Need to see more polls. It was the cutting edge, but it was tied low 40s, and that is a good sign.
I'd like to ask you two geniuses this thing. Because we talked about it a lot on the show over the last year, which was, the point, which was that one of Biden's chief failings in talking about the economy was that there wasn't enough "I feel your pain." Right? He would always be talking about the achievements that
his achievements, yes,
and not talking about the particularly cost of living related stuff. Right? He didn't want to acknowledge that inflation was real, that people were paying more at the pump, that the price of eggs, all that stuff. Right? How much of that, if the two key Democratic economic messages are always "I'm on your side" and "I feel your pain" in some mixture, how much do you guys think that Harris needs to? How much "I feel your pain" does she need? Does she need any? Or is she? What's the way she's not linked to Biden's economic record in the way she is on immigration? How much of that, though? How much do you want to hear her? You two want to hear her enunciate something of, "I know the last 4 years have been hard. We've recovered a lot, but I know it's still been painful, and I know it's still been there's still a lot of anxiety out there."
She's doing a little bit of that. I actually think that the ad that Mike referenced, and maybe we'll get a hold of it and stick it in here, but the ad that Mike references was the right tone, which is she talks about not having to work, two jobs to pay the bills. She describes the challenges that people are facing in a way that seemed authentic and real and connected. And I think that's what she has to do. I think she's not going to walk away from the reality that that the last 4 years have produced a lot of growth and jobs and so on. But you really have to turn hard into the but.
Yeah, it's been a hard journey, but here's my compass. I think she does have to be careful. That's why the McDonald's thing bugs me, because she is a multimillionaire, lives in Brentwood, California. There's Bill Clinton grew up in the tar paper shack thing going on here. Maybe when she was younger, but I'd be careful of that. Her whole thing is a little patrician, her vibe, but it's somehow become, to her credit, likable patrician now.
Yes.
Because she's riding on this happy cloud now, and people like her, and her smile's great, and it's all working. But she shouldn't push that too far. She sounds like...
Well, that's that. To your point, Mike, that's what the thing that bothered me about the spot was the line, she knows what it's like to be middle class. It's sort of like,
an exaggeration of the present.
Yes. I mean, the present sort of belies that. But so that's why storytelling from her would authenticate that, I guess.
Especially compared to her running mate, who really does know what it's like to be middle class. In fact, Tim Wells is actually
let him be in the pet store window on that. Yeah, you know what they're charging for a battery operated drill down at Holden Depot now? Inflation.
Shocking.
Yeah, let me ask you a question relative to the VPs. Obviously, he's played very well, certainly among Democrats. I think probably among swing voters. So interesting to me. I don't know if you saw Eric Erickson's. Maybe he was just trolling, but he did a tweet saying, the Republicans have damaged Walz so badly. Will she replace him at the convention and all of that? But they kind of believe it. They believe that they've mortally wounded him. I guess my question is, now there's a piece in the Journal today about as governor, he, like a lot of Democratic governors, he signed a bill that allowed driver's licenses for illegal immigrants, free college tuition, what was healthcare. I kind of think that this is, I don't quibble with any of those things, and I can make the argument for all of them from a public policy standpoint. This is the thing that pisses off voters, the idea that people come here and then they get benefits. The question is, do people impute to her what he did? Well,
that's the thing. If they think they killed him, and I think they're wrong, because this stuff, his tone overwhelms all this stuff.
Yeah, he's a good performer.
But if they think they killed the wrong target, then vice president's overrated. He's the thing of the moment because he's interesting, he's charismatic, he's different than the average Democrat in tone. He looks like he could actually change a spare tire, which many Democratic nominees do not give that vibe. But they're not going to kill him, and if they do, it's not the material thing. And he's always going to do better than Vance.
I just can't believe I agree with Mike as much about this as I do, because I never like to agree with Mike wholeheartedly, especially my first co-hosting.
I know. Show. Don't worry, we'll find something.
But I mean, honestly, he's the paradigmatic normal vice presidential candidate. They cleared the bar.
Gibbs never said paradigmatic.
Well,
you've already kind of classed up the show here,
right?
Yeah.
But I mean, seriously, right? She cleared the bar. That we're done. They're done. There's not a single American. There's not a single voter who's going to vote for or against Kamala Harris because of Tim Walz. Not one.
And nobody's going to think he's the problem.
Yes,
he's out of the way.
I mean, the idea that he embraced. I mean, to the extent that Republicans could, and the Trump campaign, if they were focused, could try to portray him as a reflection of her ideology in the broadest values-based way. There's maybe a little bit of headway you can make there, but on specifics of policy, I don't believe it. It's your old boss, Barack Obama, David. I remember him once waxing about this in his post-presidency about how culture trumps policy now in America. That the way that people perceive these candidates is not through the lens of any one specific policy. Yes. Did you pass this bill or that bill? It's more like, they read a different set of signifiers. And with Walz, this is where I think Mike is so right. I just don't think anybody's if they're Republican and they're MAGA, they're going to hate him and they're going to think he's a socialist, whatever. Tampon Tim, they think that's going to move votes against Kamala Harris. Fucking crazy. I don't see that as being, I just can't imagine disqualifying, even if they did disqualify Tim Walz somehow on the basis of being too left. But tampons in schools or, driver's license for undocumented immigrants, whatever. How's that stick to her? She's got her own problems in that area, but they're not his problems.
Yeah. No, the culture thing is so important. That's why, the one guy who's probably of the four who's kind of had the biggest problem in the last couple of weeks has been Vance with a stupid cat lady thing, which transcended politics. Everybody kind of got that. By the way, on culture, one of the advantages that she's had, I don't know if I said this earlier, but Biden was absolutely a dead weight when it came to social media and particularly TikTok. He just, he was getting outdone by a 10-1 margin on TikTok. She's become a sort of social media sensation, and Waltz improbably, in some ways, has become a social media sensation because he's smart and he knows how to cut stuff in a way that becomes viral.
And the age of the supporters. The center of gravity is more TikTok in the Democratic half of the country.
Although, Waltz doesn't exactly look like the demo.
No, but the people posting it are younger and more D. It's just more organic to them.
Bernie's probably created some TikTok material over the years. But.
Well, that's right. That's the thing about Waltz is that it turns out that like young people, it's not really about how old you look or how old you are. It's how old you seem. And,
yes,
Bernie Sanders.
I keep telling myself that.
Young people really like Bernie Sanders. They really like Larry David. Cranky, old, authentic, kind of,
authentic. I think it's like a big piece of this
huge
equation.
Piece of it.
Big piece of this equation.
All right, we're going to take a minute to pay the bills, and we'll be right back.
No man, Murphy, no man wants to lose his hair.
I wouldn't know.
Well, I would. But for men, it's actually
lying.
very common, and I feel better about that. Yeah, I see a little shine on the top of that noggin of yours. And now with Hims, the solution is simple. Try Hims Hair Loss Solutions, and you'll be joining hundreds of thousands of subscribers who get their flow back.
Hims provides access to a range of hair loss treatments that work, all from the comfort of your couch, where all good things happen.
Hims makes treating hair loss simple with doctor-trusted treatment options and clinically proven ingredients, like finasteride and minoxidil, that can regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months.
They offer personalized, chewable, oral, spray, and serum treatment options so you can find what works best for you.
The process is simple and 100% online. Just answer a few questions and a medical provider will determine if treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your treatment is sent directly to your door.
Hims has hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, so if you feel like you're losing a part of yourself with your hair loss, get Hims and get your confidence back.
Man, I need that. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/hacks. That's Hims, HIMS.com/hacks for your personalized hair loss treatment options. hims.com/hacks.
Results vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information.
Where do you guys think this race is at? And I have a specific reason for it. But
no, she's ahead. Election held tomorrow. I think she'd win the pop states. I think she'd carry that Omaha CD, and I think she might even get Georgia.
I think I'm much closer to. If it were today, he might win, but it's a coin toss. But she's got momentum. I'm not sure that he would win Pennsylvania today. I don't know that he'd win that state. I don't know that he'd win Michigan today. I think he'd win Wisconsin. I think she's in striking distance to take those states. And, she's probably, yes, competitive in Georgia. The one thing I wanted to raise is yesterday the Secretary of State certified an abortion rights amendment in Arizona. and put it on the ballot.
Good for her.
That is good news for Harris. So we've got this big convention coming up next week, you guys.
Hey, David.
Yes.
Just, I only want to point out something that's flattering to you on your previous question about where the race is.
Yes.
Democrats are overjoyed about the New York Times Siena polling. And they have every reason to be, and the momentum is obviously headed in her direction. And I'm probably a little more with Mike than I am with you about this. But I did note that you called out the crazy numbers in those New York Times Siena polls with non-college whites.
Yes.
Where she's at 42 or something with non-college whites.
The tabs don't hold up too well in those.
I mean, Hillary Clinton did, I think, 29 with non-college whites. Biden did about 35.
These were in those 3 states. But even in those 3 states, I think Biden got somewhere between 36 and 37 in 2020. Right. So 42... is kind of unimaginable. They also had her leading among women by 20, which is much higher than I've seen anywhere else. And there was sort of a Democratic bias to some of the sample, but someone was talking to me about the Wisconsin piece. I see a lot of data, and not all of it is public, but to me, this is, and I trust the data that I see. I think that it suits her and it suits her supporters not to do what the Republicans did, which was throw a big victory party at their convention, only to find out that, oh my God, we're in a race.
Yeah, we missed the whole race. No, I totally agree. I saw something
was a better place to be.
Private that I trusted in Michigan that was plus, depending on how you weighed it, 3 or 4 yesterday. But point is, she's moving in the right direction, and unless they screw up the convention, which I would bet they will not do, and they don't get pulled into woke craziness, identity, and they don't run the Hillary campaign, occasionally there are little signs they've stumbled in that way, but generally they haven't. They're going to be in great shape in Labor Day, but then comes the second look. So what can the convention do, to help with the segue here, to cement that in? I think they motive middle-class economics, and she has a plan forward, so she's not Biden 2.0. That would be my prescription. I'd lighten up on the prosecutor crime war.
Yeah,
she's not Elliot Ness.
Well, listen, I sort of disagree with you there. I think, one of the things that your friends over in the Mitt Romney campaign in 2012 did that was a mistake is they robbed him of his biography because they thought it might be a problem for him, and the result of it was he wasn't a whole person in that race.
I agree. Don't get me started.
I think there is a pretty good backstory as to why she became a prosecutor, and it's very personal to her, and I think it's important. It grounds her. In a really significant way. But generally, what you say, Mike, is exactly what they should do. I suspect it's what they know that they have to do. And what'll be, I think they're going to give Biden the gold watch on Monday, and then it's going to be all about Kamala and the middle class and her values,
Do you guys think that she needs to? There's some popular wisdom out there now among people who are doing focus groups in some of the polling as well, which is that she really just needs to talk less about Trump. That Trump is kind of Trump is self-destructing at this point.
Trump is kind of a built-in thing. No. Trump's numbers don't move, and Trump does himself no good. She ought to grab the future and connect to people on middle-class economic values, and she'll do great.
Listen, a majority of voters in this country don't want to vote for Donald Trump.
Exactly.
That's been clear from the beginning. She has a simple task here, which is to introduce herself to the country and make them comfortable with her as the alternative to Trump. If this were a Biden convention, it would be 80% negative on Trump because they would need to make Trump more unpopular than Biden. She is in a much different place, and I think for that reason, the tone of this convention is going to be much different. Last thing.
It ought to be joy, by the way. They ought to run with the Olympic spirit and all that stuff and just glue it to her. The future versus the sclerotic past.
The grinding negative,
Right.
I mean, what was Shapiro's line? Donald Trump should stop shit talking America. I don't think
this joy thing. If I were them, the convention handout gimmick would be heart-shaped American flags. I would make that the thing of the campaign. Own patriotism. Own the Olympics. Own, is the greatest place in the world. And let him be Voldemort.
The thing that made that clip that we heard before from her from Nevada so affecting was she wrapped herself in America. She wrapped herself in the flag. She's talking about she and Waltz and their stories. She's talking about her own story and Waltz's story and how phenomenal it is that this country allows folks like them to be on the doorstep of going to the White House. And she, it was very much about us as a country. And that's plays so well against Trump, who just divides for fun. And he divides for fun and profit. He frightens people for fun and profit. He is the most hilarious thing about the Republican convention was, this wasn't hilarious. I mean, Trump almost got killed, and they said this was a life-changing experience, and he had ripped up his speech.
About 12 prompter lines.
And his speech was going to be all about unity. Well, yes, 10 minutes in, he saw the unity thing wasn't playing in the room, and he threw it away. He said, "Screw that! I'm going back to my routine."
All right, you guys can all relax. Mr. Hyde is back. Forget this Jekyll shit.
Exactly.
It doesn't play.
Exactly. Before we get to questions, which we are going to do.
Yeah, this time we're going to do it. The orchestra's ready to go. They're going to hit overtime, so this won't be long. But the debate, we talked a little before about, should she, shouldn't she? She kind of won the debate on debates. The 10th is apparently coming, but he's got a box
you were right,
offer
by the way.
out
I was
there.
wrong on that.
No, it doesn't.
It has to be said. It happens once a year. I want to acknowledge it.
Once a week. But anyway, what's her next move to keep the debate offense up? Does she lock in on the other? Or does she agree in principle to Fox and CBS afterward? Because I think she's got the catbird position here, and she shouldn't give it up. She's given the heart attack, not him, which I like.
Yeah, well, she should say, I think I would say, let's see, I want to see that he shows up for this one.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about the next one. The question is, will there be a VP debate? That would kind of be fun to see.
Oh, I think America wants it, too.
Yeah.
He wasn't so bad on the Sundays, though. The smartest political observer in Canada, a guy named Tom Long, called me up, who's a great, dual citizen, so great American, too. But he said he was surprised at Vance's Sunday performance.
In what way?
Just a little sharper and less goonish than he expected.
He was sharper and goonish, but I think in a debate...
less goonish.
It's less goonish, yes. But in a... look, he's not stupid. He's a smart guy.
He was particularly smart in his Never Trump days. I used to like him.
It would be interesting to see him with someone who is in a more adversarial role than Dana was.
I did enjoy Mike referring to whoever you just referred to, Mike, as the greatest, most astute political observer in Canada. Is that like the greatest?
No, he's the most dangerous man in Canadian politics. All our Canadian listeners, and we have a lot, are nodding right now.
Sounded a little like the greatest Jewish power forward of all time.
No, he's run some good
Mike
campaigns.
worked for the guy too. Let's do full disclosure there.
What did I do?
You were in service of Long in the.
Well, no, we worked together on a little caper called Mike Harris for Premier way back, the Common Sense Revolution.
Right.
Hey, it created a job for you down the road.
Yes, it did. I appreciate that. And I also appreciate our singers who are going to send us right into the mailbag.
Listener mailbag.
It's listener mailbag.
Thanks, gang. Take the rest of the day off. Mike, do your thing.
That's right. Take 5, you cats. That's what we say there. Those jingles are over 40 years old, by the way. The singers aren't. They came out of retirement to help us out a few years ago. But anyway, let's go to the mailbag. If you, by the way, have an insightful or interesting mailbag question, or if you have a bad one, just stick $20 in the envelope. Things can work out. This is kind of like radio. All you got to do is email us at hacksontap@gmail.com, hacksontap@gmail.com. You can record a voicemail on your smartphone and email that to us too. Just use your name so we know who you are, and let us do the bloviating. Not too long, maybe 20, 25 seconds. And finally, you can call Axelrod's secret off-track betting parlor in Chicago at this number and leave it for us on the voicemail. 773-389-4471. I'll repeat it because who can remember that? 773-389-4471.
That was created by the same AI people who produced the Kamala Harris crowd, so let's give them a big shout out.
So, for David Axelrod, we have a voicemail from Ted.
Ted.
Hello, Hacks. This is Ted from Yarmouth, Maine. And my question is, will it be possible for the Democratic National Committee to convince a Republican leader, a la Rusty Bowers, Fred Upton, perhaps a former Republican president from Texas and Kennebunkport, to speak at their convention? Thanks.
Well, I know you and Maine have an interest in getting someone from Kennebunkport to speak. I don't think that's going to happen, Ted. But I am absolutely confident that there will be a prominent Republican figure who will speak at the at the Democratic convention. I think strategically, it would be malpractice not to do that, not to invite someone and not to feature them. And I expect that that's going to happen. I'm not throwing out any names, but I have some confidence.
Adam Kinzinger
happen.
doesn't count. Okay.
I kind of like an action team. Get like 5 of them up there, the flying wedge, and let one do a lot of the talking. So it doesn't seem like one crank who, couldn't get a parking space in the Capitol, but a bunch of them. And fearless Fred Upton, whose congressional district I believe you're recording this in,
yes,
in Michigan, or his former district, he'd be great.
Yeah, his former district.
There are a couple, and they ought to play wide with that.
I've got one here from Tom. For John Hilman. Somehow the word leaked that Hilman was going to join the show, and Tom had a special question for him, so let's hear him.
Hey guys, this is Tom from Jersey. I have a vetting question. Whenever it seems like there's a scandal hitting a new candidate, a new VP, we hear if they'd been vetted properly, the campaign would have known and they could have gotten out ahead of this. Can you give an example of when that has worked, when a campaign has successfully diffused something because they got ahead of it? I'm just curious, what are the ways they do that? Thanks.
Tom, it's a very good question, and I'm gonna give you a really up to date example, although I don't actually know that this is true.
That's right. This Hacks on Tap doesn't have to be true.
Yeah, this is opinion journalism.
This could be true. Just a couple weeks ago, we suddenly saw a story in the Daily Mail about the fact that Kamala Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, had an affair with a teacher from his kid's school in L.A. And claimed that he got her pregnant. And there was, a bunch of other details in the story. That story came out on the Saturday before the BP pick was announced. Now, when I said I don't know if it's true or not, I don't know. But the timing was so fortuitous, and they knocked it down so fast. Emhoff was out with a statement to CNN within a couple hours of when that story came out. There are a lot of people in politics who think that was a story that the Harris campaign decided to put out there so they could take advantage of fortuitous timing, just knock it straight down. I don't know that that's true or not, but it very well could be. And I think my two fellow hacks here, David and Mike, can think of millions of examples where similar things have happened on campaigns they've worked on, where that's how you deal with some of these liabilities. If you know there's going to be a story about it, you put it out yourself so you can control the timing and knock it back on your own terms.
The one thing about vetting is that you don't vet in order to knock down things once you nominate a candidate. You vet to know whether the things you find are disqualifying.
Right. No surprises.
Those two things aren't mutually exclusive, though, Axe, as you know.
Yes.
And Heilman's right. It's all timing. True. That's the only thing you can control.
We've got two candidates. We got two candidates in Waltz and in Vance here, one of whom, Vance, who was selected. I mean, Trump knew for months and months and months that he was going to nominate a vice presidential candidate. And so you presume he should have known about the cat lady stuff, about the voluminous correspondences in which Vance called him, Hitler-esque and all of that, and ran down the police, and there were, there was a lot out there. There's a story that just surfaced today about he did this startup in Kentucky and the headline is "Workers Allege Nightmare Conditions at Kentucky Startup J.D. Vance Helped Fund," which also went bankrupt, apparently. I mean, the question is, did Trump care about the vetting? Did he get vetted, and then did Trump care about it? Or was it just that he looked good on TV and his sons and Tucker Carlson thought he'd be a great troll for Trump?
And call me simple.
All right, you're simple.
I don't think vigorous staff work and vetting and Trump campaign necessarily go together that easily. Trump's not really give me the briefing book.
I think that La Savita and Susie Wiles and La Savita are pros. I mean, I think that they're
right.
Yeah, they are, but it doesn't count. It doesn't mean anything.
The thing that's damaged him most, as you pointed out earlier, was we all pointed out, the childless cat lady thing has done more damage to Vance than anything else. And I'm not sure that the Trump campaign's cultural antenna, that's not a thing that would, it's not a scandal. It's not some problem in his past that would come up in a normal vet. But I'm not sure that if they saw that clip that they would have been like, oh, that's going to be a huge cultural explosion. I'm not sure they're in touch enough to get why that thing has been as explosive as it was. That's the kind of thing that the vet could easily have missed.
It was the idiot sons and Tucker Carlson on line 2. It was not, I don't believe, a real vet.
Yeah.
I mean, he said the cat lady thing to Tucker Carlson, right? I mean, you would have, Tucker had a clue. He would have been like, hey, I think this guy's great, except you should really look at this one comment he made to me where that could get him in some trouble. Can you imagine?
But they giggle and high five. That's the kind of culture war offense we need. 100%. Shake them up. The Georgetown cocktail party circuit will go nuts. We love it.
What we really need is Murphy wisdom for Andrew, who sent this question in. With Biden being so unpopular and not really capable of communicating, what role do you think Biden could have at the convention? I know he's the sitting president, but how could the Dems let him stiffly shuffle his way on stage to address the delegates with a stutter and a mumble about how we beat Medicare? That's really kind of nasty, actually. Do you really want to do that question?
Okay, so here's what I would say. One, Andrew, you can relax. It won't be that bad. First, I have heard from secret sources that the Tom Cruise stunt team has left Paris and they're heading to Delaware for a quick practice session. You're going to fly on wire and then a motorcycle. No, there's going to be so much love for Biden Monday night. Yeah. Monday will be Biden and then he's gone. And it is going to be the gratitude. And by the way, when was the last time a national politician did something not in their direct interest lately? He's earned that gratitude. They're going to love him. And they should do Biden greatest hits. They should have a great video. Every key fight of the Democratic Party for the cause we believe, he has been in the middle of, doing the work. Grateful Nation. There won't be a dry eye in the place if he has a short, elegant prompter speech, which I would bet a car they will have. And he'll do just fine. And then the gears will shift, and that'll be that. I'm not worried about that risk, assuming Monday is Biden night, and then they change the channel.
First of all, I agree with everything you said, and maybe it's a chance to highlight the things that he should get tremendous credit for that he wasn't getting credit for, because he does have a body of achievements that I think history will shine on more than voters have in this election. The second thing I want to note is that you said you were going to bet a car, and you talked about shifting gears and everything. You just have this EV thing on your head, man. You just can't let it go. You're like about cars all the time.
I got a plan to win the presidency in the state of Michigan for the pro-EV side of the argument. And by the way, Trump backed off a little last night because Elon's checkbook was there waving in front of him.
Exactly.
He's so funny. There's that quote the other day where he said, there was a quote before this where he said, I used to hate EVs, but now I've changed my mind because Elon likes me so much.
Talk about a lease deal, by the way. I wonder what kind of payment Elon's have to make.
Well, before on this subject, I just got to play one thing on the way out here because I could see your head exploding, Murphy. This was him talking to Elon about global warming.
The biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise 1/8 of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that. The biggest threat is nuclear warming.
So nuclear warming.
I plan to park my boat at the submerged Mar-a-Lago in about 80 years. I'm taking aging pills just to avoid that. By the way, on the EV stuff, go to evpolitics.org. Learn all about it.
Hey, I got to say, Murphy told me he encouraged me when I was thinking about getting my Rivian, and I will say, I don't again, much as I don't agree with Mike, I also don't like thanking Mike, but Mike, I love the electric car, man. I love having it. It's downstairs,
trying to get me in one.
In the garage, it's great. It's great.
I tried to get him into a Ford. We tried a more advanced model.
And, I couldn't handle it.
And your personal project. I've offered to go to the secret undisclosed location where he will be during the throes of the election, and we'll take him down to Big Deal Ford, and maybe we'll get him into a Rivian too. They're fantastic and built in America.
Man, it feels so good to be off the tit of foreign oil.
Yes.
I gotta say, I love it. It's great. Yeah. It's like I'm full of joy. I'm
just
full
to
of
beat
joy.
this to death, and then we'll let poor X escape.
On this happy note.
All right, one sec before you drop the curtain on me. I drove a Volkswagen built in Chattanooga, Tennessee, with a battery from Georgia, not China, from Los Angeles to New Hampshire here. Every charging station was not crowded except for the one in New Hampshire, and I straightened out Governor Sununu 2 days ago about that. They've screwed it up here. All the way across the country, plugged it in at charge, no problems anywhere. It was the easiest trip I ever took. Cost me $40 in fuel to get across the country.
You know why they were open, Murphy? You know why they were free of people? They saw you coming. They saw you coming.
I was going to say, you pissed off Biden enough. You got to give him some credit. By the way, Mike DeWine has built the best charging stations with General Motors for everybody to use on the Ohio Turnpike ever. I got to give a Republican governor. He's been the best on EV charging in the country.
Every time I go on the Ohio Turnpike, I get arrested. I'm not going there.
They asked me.
That's a story for another day. All right, fellas. Hilman, welcome aboard, brother. It's great to have you.
Happy to be here. This is going to be a lot of fun these next 80 whatever days. Holy shit.
Yeah, I know. 84 days. All right, guys. See you next time.
See you next week.
Ship ahoy.